bring this meeting to order. If everyone will please rise and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. The guidelines for public participation are on the inside blue cover of the agenda. We'll be holding everyone to 3 minutes, as the guideline states, at the appropriate time in the agenda for public comment. Moving on, can we get a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Sermonero?
I'm just covering bases.
Mrs. Fassett here. Mrs. Hartzell?
Here.
Mr. McCullough?
Here.
Mr. Potts?
Here.
Mr. Ross? Mr. Shaheen?
Here.
Ms. Twardowski?
Here.
And Mr. Basil?
Here. Under announcements, first and foremost, this meeting is being recorded. Second, there will be an executive session on personnel and negotiations after this meeting and litigation. And third, tonight marks the end of an era at Daniel Boone. On August 27th, 1984, Ms. Linda Nyman was hired as a junior secretary in the school district at a whopping $3.50 an hour. 4 years later, she became the district secretary, and then in 1994 became the secretary to the superintendent. Tonight is Ms. Nyman's last public meeting. For on May 6th, she will be retiring, effectively ending a 27-year commitment to this district, the students, and the Daniel Boone community. I've only had an opportunity of working with Ms. Nyman for a brief 3.5 years, but I'd have to say it's been a pleasure. And I can assure you, you will definitely be truly missed. And I know Dr. Otto and some other people have something to say.
I'm going to echo some of the comments made by Mr. Basil. Mrs. Nyman started here at Daniel Boone in 1984. I'm going to say some names that are probably known to some of you who've been around Daniel Boone for a long time, so we're going to have a good time with this. She started working at the then junior high school, working with Mr. Ray Swisher, who was a guidance counselor at the time, and then Janet Levengood, and her building principal at the time was Mr. Steve Brochel. In 1988, she then moved to the district office. I believe that was down in Monocacy, right?
No, we were still at the high school.
Still at the high school, working with Pat Levengood, as who was the superintendent secretary, and Dr. Rita Jones was the superintendent at the time. She then was assigned as the secretary to Dr. Lou Buzz Cuthbert, if you all remember Buzz, was assistant to the superintendent at the time. In 1993, Dr. Jones left Daniel Boone, and Dr. Cuthbert became the superintendent. Then in 94, when Pat retired, Linda was promoted to the secretary to the superintendent and school board recording secretary. Dr. Cuthbert then retired in 1997, and Linda worked with two interim superintendents, Mr. Bob Lesko and Mr. Jim Gilmartin, both who had been retired superintendents from other Berks County schools at the time. Then in 1998, Mr. Robbins was appointed as the district superintendent. Mrs. Nyman spent a decade with him. And then in June of 2008, I came on board, and she kind of broke me into the Daniel Boone way. I still remember sitting in the lobby of the Matthew Brook building waiting for my interviews, and how pleasant she was to me to take me down to the interview room. So finally, after those 26 plus years, she is now, I'm going to be her final superintendent. And with that, I believe there is a third leg to this conversation.
On a personal note, when I reflect back over Linda's years as board secretary, I marvel at her endurance and patience in training over 20 new board members. She's been the constant person we turn to get acclimated with the new responsibility of how to be a good board member. In many ways, she's been the mother of the board, who we could always ask questions of, not to mention her keeping us on track with all our paperwork, reminders of meetings, and countless other things. She was always prepared with paper, pen, and her stamp to keep us on track. In the past, she's also been known to compliment a fellow board member on how nice his tie looked so that she could straighten it. Let us not forget her other secretarial skills she has brought to the board. Before we went to computers and actually used typewriters, she mastered the art of using whiteout. At one point, I heard she wore it as nail polish. I recently learned that she was thinking about painting her family room that color. I don't know if Denny knows that yet, but the only snag is that it's going to take Linda a little bit of time to do that, because they only give you an itsy bitsy teeny weeny little brush. But we want to get you started on that. So here's your first bottle for your family room. And then, now on a serious note, on behalf of all the board members you serve now and the ones you served in the past, we want to thank you. You've kept us so organized, I can't even imagine life at Daniel Boone without you. But we wish you the best in your retirement. You definitely deserve it. And may this remind you of us here at Boone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone, please. Thank you.
And in conjunction with that, the board is actually going to be meeting, we're going to have a retirement dinner for Ms. Nyman, and so more than 5 board members will be in attendance. It's not an official board meeting, but I'm making that announcement to the public. And this is at no expense to the school district whatsoever. Okay? Having said all of those announcements, again, procedures for public participation are inside the blue cover of your agendas. And moving on to number 6 of the agenda, are there any comments from the public on agenda items? All right, seeing none. 7, recognition for April.
Thank you, Mr. Basil. We, as you know, have been undergoing an effort with an alumni database that we're trying to build to reach out to former Daniel Boone students and alumni. And it's going very slowly, but we are getting along. And we did have some help from students at Daniel Boone High School. And if you are here, would you please kind of start making your way down to the front? I would like to read all the names. I know not all of the students could make it, but if you would kind of make your way down here. Just let me read all of your names first. I know some of you are not here, some of them are not here. But once we read all the names, we'll ask you to come forward up to the stage and we'll give you your certificate. Following students help participate in this effort, being undertaken by our technology department. I apologize if I'm not sure of your pronunciation. Kelly Rhodes. If you're here, you can kind of wave so you at least recognize Renee Gebhardt, Kelsey Richards, Rachel Guillaume, Brandon Bailey, Angelique Olszewski, Lindsay Rowland, Dominique Haley, Brianna Rogers, Evelyn Nugent, Kirsten McMaster, Stacy Smith, Kelsey Smith, Amber Malk, Aaron Snyder, Joshua Pfluger, and Amber Spade. Please give these people a nice round of applause for their efforts. They have just, again, this is what we call community service. They are giving up their time and helping us to try to get something done that may lead to future revenue enhancement here in the district, and also keeping the Daniel Boone spirit alive with the many alumni that are out there. So we're going to come over there toward you guys and try to sort these out.
There were 17 altogether. All of them made it. Brianna Rogers. Congratulations. Thank you very much. And maybe more work to do. Lindsay Rowland. Again, have a nice round of applause.
I just wanted to reiterate that what these students worked on is, I think, a significant initiative that the school district is trying to embark on. And the first step of that was getting this information into our system. So we're trying to create an alumni database that will be beneficial to the students, recent graduates, as well as alumni of the school. And hopefully that in turn returns dividends for this district in the long run. So again, thank you, students, for your help with this. It was actually critical in getting that work done. All right, moving on, routine approvals. It's recommended, does the board have a motion for one or all of these? A through C, or should we take them one at a time?
Issue A through C.
A through C?
Is there a second? Discussion? I just had one item, March 28th minutes, item number 12. There's a discussion about transportation, and it talks in there about $136,000 to $140,000 savings for half-day pickup, and I think that should read something a little bit different than that.
Yeah,
So
it should read that.
What page
it was page
of the minutes?
4656 on the minutes, top right-hand corner.
What does that read, Mrs. Bissett?
I got that, John.
You want me to read it?
Under number 12, is that where you're at?
Yeah, number 12. Oh, yeah, right here. So, thanks, Brian. So what it says is, Mr. Sheehan reported that the Transportation Committee met recently with our two busing contractors who offered several suggestions for district savings, including the removal of two buses by combining bus routes at a savings of $75,000. The contractors also reviewed hazardous routes for 1,212 students, which created a 50% reimbursement for those routes and saved the districts an additional $66,000. The contractors have also reviewed picking up and dropping off the half-day kindergarten students at the same time, saving the district approximately $136,000 to $140,000.
No, that may be a net between all of those together.
Okay.
But the original amount, if I'm not mistaken, Mrs. Trainer, there was going to be about $56,000 for the two buses.
An additional cost.
An additional cost of $56,000, of which they would only require one bus for midday busing would cost us half of that 56. So feel free to do the math. But
Do you want to just admit
$28,000.
the lower end saying the district approximately? Should we just admit that?
Yeah, I mean, if you
lower
want to do a net there or put it in as the intraday busing as a cost of, I mean, either one.
well, they're doing a net of. I would
So what is the
recommend we
net?
change it doing a net of, or if you want to put in what the savings, what the half cost is going to be, and then net it out. It's either way, but it's not we have to include the cost of $28,000 for the interday busing.
So what would the net be? Are all the other numbers correct there?
Yes.
Less 28.
I think we netted somewhere around $100,000.
141 minus 28,000?
Right. Yeah, about 120,000.
So then
113.
we should, at the students at the same time, make that a period, and then the projected net savings could be,
Right.
or would be
113,000.
113,000. Okay.
Okay, that's the only comment I had. You ready for a vote?
Okay. The vote is for the minutes as amended with that correction. Mr. Salmonaro?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissett, yes. Mrs. Hartzell?
Yes.
Mr. McCullough?
Yes.
Mr. Potts?
Yes.
Mr. Shaheen?
Yes.
Ms. Twardowski?
Yes.
And Mr. Basil?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Okay, moving on to number 9, presentations by board members.
I only have one piece of correspondence. It was dated March 31st, received into the office on April 4th, and it is just a letter informing us, the district, that the Department of Auditor General will begin their mandated audit of the school district on Tuesday, April 12th, for the fiscal years ended June 30th, 2010 and 2009. And I think they are currently there.
That is correct.
That's all I have.
Okay. Ms. Hartzell, BCIU.
Thank you, Mr. Basil. The BCIU will actually be meeting this upcoming Thursday, so I do not have a report until next month. However, I would like to share with the board, the IU did provide me with a breakdown of current and potential services to the school district that may help us with our budget discussions. I'd like to offer this to Mr. Basil to scan in and distribute to all board members. And again, I will have a report for you next month.
Okay, thank you. Dr. I would get that out to the board.
Absolutely.
All right, Ms. Twardowski.
The JOC will not actually meet until the 27th of April, so I don't have a report for you at this time.
Okay, Mr. Sheen.
The only thing that's coming out of Harrisburg right now is the voucher program's been sidetracked, put on the shelf. Can't read a lot into it. It may not have the support they thought it had, or it needs to be modified. A number of other things are still, again, being fast-tracked, which was the elimination of Act 1 deductions, exemptions, the ability to remove teachers for performance even after tenure, much easier, budgetary constraints. There's a whole number of things that they're attempting to fast-track and get through, but with this whole voucher thing going down, there's not a lot of hope that they're going to get these other things through by the end of the school year, so we may not see anything until into the summertime, so we'll see where that goes.
Okay. Other reports. I guess I'll start with the, do you want to take that first?
Up to you.
Well, we'll just leave that for the end.
Okay.
Revenue Enhancement Committee met and we discussed the Adopt-A program as well as the database. In the board packet, there was two things in there. One was a brief survey the REC would like to get out to the public via Facebook or on our website to get some feedback on the initiative for the Adopt-A program. And it's 3 simple questions, and we're hoping we could get some direction from the board tonight and get the board's approval to put that out there right away so we could get started with that. So that's the first item I'd like to sort of get. If there's consensus on the board on that one, we can move forward. Let me put it the other way. Are there any objections to putting that survey out there for the public? Okay, seeing none, great. Mr. Jacobs, you can post that out there. The other thing that was on there was a website, an initial iteration of the Adopt-A program website. We're asked the board to take a look at that, give us your feedback. Obviously we can change it up a little bit in terms of the look and feel. The art department at the high school is working on a logo for this initiative, so I'd be happy to get some feedback from board members on what they've seen so far so that we can give some direction to Mr. Jacobs on how to adjust that web page.
My only one comment is on the Adopt-A program. Again, if we go through with this and we get an organization to adopt a program, then I think we need to, and I think we did talk about this last week, to go back out and reword our activity fee policy, because if somebody's going to adopt a program in whole, then they really should, and that means all their costs, then we really cannot charge them a activity fee if an outside organization is going to take 100% of the funding on for that activity.
Okay, well, I think the Adopt-A program is kind of like school-wide for
I understand,
all
but we
sorts
also
of
said that they could, if I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, that they could identify a program they wanted funds to go to. So if somebody saw fit and wanted to give us $10,000 that would go toward a specific program and it fully funded that program, all costs included, then we need to very seriously look at the activity fee for that particular program for that particular year.
And that, I think, was going to be addressed in the policy that the administration's working on for May.
Again, it's just a reminder.
That's correct.
Yeah,
Right.
okay.
We'll make that a line item in the policy.
So I think from the committee's perspective, the REC, it was just looking for some, board members take a look at the web page that's on the website so that, if you have some thoughts or some input that.
My question was, what would happen if a person donated money to a certain program that then was eliminated because of lack of response or budget cuts or whatever? Would the money be refunded to them, and should we be indicating that on the donation form?
Yeah, I think we sort of addressed this. I'll let Mr. Sermonero talk about that, but it was on the original form.
I didn't see it on this one.
And it may not have made it to this.
Yeah, we'll have to check consideration of the form, but that was the idea. If they make a specific donation towards something that ultimately does, for some reason, get eliminated, then they do have the option of seeking
I
a
know
refund.
that's what it was originally. Maybe I just didn't see it.
Take a look. I mean, at the end of the day, this is not something we have to have tonight, but board members, if you have thoughts about what that web page looks like and what it should have on it, things you don't like about it, maybe you can put a list of things together, email it to Mr. Sermonero on the REC, and we can get that to Mr. Jacobs to make some changes to that, so that document keeps
Yeah, I don't
changing.
see that on the new form, but
Yeah.
I know on one of the drafts it was there.
Okay.
And I think it would be nice to have it also on the face page before you click on the link to get the actual donation form.
Right. And I think the last thing that you saw in your board update package for this meeting, at any rate, was an interface, a software program that we sort of created, or Mr. Jacobs had created to scrub data or enter data for the alumni database. And Mr. Jacobs, do you want to elaborate on that just a little bit? Because that kind of went out late today.
We created an application that would allow any alumni of Daniel Boone to go onto the page, register, get confirmation that they can go on and enter their name and personal information about themselves, and then we would accumulate that into our database. That, combined with the roughly 7,000 names we have currently, would give us a good start on getting this database set up. So it's there. We didn't get it on until late today, so if you get a chance, go out and look. You can register. Even if you're not a Boone graduate, you can register just to try it out to see how it feels. Give us any recommendations for any changes you think we should make.
Okay.
It's on the same location. It's on BlazerNet in the board secure area on the board documents page.
Great. Any questions for Mr. Jacobs? Okay, thank you. Moving on, I think that's it for REC. Mr. Sermonaro,
Yes.
anything else there? I didn't mean to usurp Mr. Sermonaro as the chairman of that, but he was out of town this past week, and so I was stepping in for him on that one. Finance, we just met earlier this evening. We talked about a couple of different things. I think the first one is our accounting department. Our auditors had made a recommendation to the school district to put together a fund balance policy on how much a minimum amount that you would keep in fund balance. This is a requirement of GASB 54. Is that correct? And
Unrestricted.
sorry.
Unrestricted.
Yeah, unrestricted fund balance. And so as we made some recommendations, and when that policy is revised and comes forward to the committee again next month, we'll probably bring it to the board's attention during the committee of the whole for you to consider, and we'll be voting on it in May. The other part of that was we were talking about trans loans again. These are tax revenue anticipation notes. We've directed the business manager to take a look at what would be involved in getting a trans loan set up in case we needed it, and having it in place should the need arise. What would the cost be, the terms, interest rates, that sort of thing. And we'll be getting that information out to the board as soon as we get it. And the last thing that we sort of discussed was what should the processes be for the school district in terms of budget and in a review and analysis of our budget. So as we get through this year, what happens next year? At what point in time does the administration sit back and look at actual costs versus budgeted costs and take a look at the variances therein and have a discussion with the department heads on, why were you over, why were you under, how does this all come together, and then make some recommendations. Do those over-unders need to become part of the budget going forward, and what are the processes do we need to incorporate as part of this overall financial management of the school district that will make the job of the business office easier in terms of getting information out to the department heads as well as to the board going forward. So it was a lengthy discussion, more about, I think, financial philosophy and policy and procedures than it was anything else. But as that discussion moves forward, we'll hopefully be bringing details to the board on that. I don't have anything else in finance. Mr. Sheen, do you have anything on transportation?
The one thing I believe we need to discuss is the one savings that the busing partners gave us, which was to be allowed to double run the buses, which was a $36,000 plus fuel savings per bus, which was $72,000 savings to the district, would require a couple of bus runs earlier than we normally do right now to the schools. And I believe that Mr. Trainer was not present during that presentation, was not aware of that requirement, and that one of the buildings I believe we need to talk about staffing. There's nobody there. Two of the buildings?
Birdsboro and Amity Primary, but I was quoted $105,000. They felt they could save 3 buses.
Okay, 3. It was 2. They probably went to 3 buses now. But we need to be able to staff it with an aide, and probably maybe one of the, and we can discuss this when we get into possibly in the budget workshop tomorrow, that one of the potential aides we're looking to bring back for K1 and 2 could be designated to do that in the morning prior to going to their duties.
Okay. Anything else in transportation? Okay. Any questions, planning board members? All right, seeing none. Oh, yeah, one more thing.
In regard to the auditors being here, we also have a report dated April 14th coming from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Department of Education, received in our offices April 15th. It's addressed to me. It simply says, I'd like to read it into the record. Dear Dr. Otto, the Board of Directors and the administrative staff of the Daniel Boone Area School District are to be congratulated for the accomplishments shown by the audit of your operations for the fiscal years ending June 30th, 2006 and 2005, recently issued by the Department of the Auditor General. Pennsylvania Department of Education would like to inform you that the audit report of Daniel Boone Area School District did not contain any findings or observations for these years in accordance with procedures established in Management Directive number 325.10. However, the audit report did discuss a prior year finding and recommendation which has been referred to the appropriate area of the department and will be resolved in accordance with established procedures. It is a pleasure to commend you and your staff for this achievement. I would hope that this commendation becomes part of the official minutes of the next meeting of your board. Again, congratulations. Sincerely, Ronald J. Tamales, Acting Secretary of Education. So on behalf of everyone who contributed to that effort a number of years ago, thank you.
Moving on to buildings and grounds. Any report? Nothing to report.
What I'd like to add, though, for May 2nd, we'd like to have a meeting at 7 o'clock at the Matthew Brook Building. Also would like to bring up as far as Mr. Smith's been doing some changes as far as the Simplex system. We are going with Berkshire Systems. With that switch, we're going to have a net savings of $22,930. With the bad news over APC, there was a boiler failure. We're looking around $60,000 for that. Mr. Smith will be doing most of that in-house except for the pipe fitting. So we'll see how that final number turns out. Turnstile hopefully is up there. Going to be working as far as pouring the pad with dry weather. And with that, he is working on the modular bathrooms. along with Mr. Horn for some ramp drawings and obviously some seals of approval on that to get the SDE. And that's all I have for that.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Potts. Moving on to financial approvals, do I have a recommendation for one or all of the following?
A through E?
A through E.
Second?
Okay, any discussion? Seeing none, take a roll call vote.
Mrs. Fasette, yes. Mrs. Hartzell?
Yes.
Mr. McCullough?
Yes.
Mr. Potts?
Yes.
Mr. Shaheen?
Yes.
Ms. Twardowski?
Yes.
Mr. Seminara?
Yes.
And Mr. Basil?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Okay, moving on to number 12, personal approvals.
A through D?
A through D. Have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, can I get a roll call vote?
Mrs. Hartzell?
Yes.
Mr. McCullough?
Yes.
Mr. Potts?
Yes.
Mr. Shaheen?
Yes.
Ms. Twardowski?
Yes.
Mr. Seminara?
Yes.
Mrs. Fasette, yes. And Mr. Basil?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Item number E.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Congratulations are in order to you, I think. It's
36 more days.
a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing. Okay, can I get a roll call vote?
Mr. McCullough?
Yes.
Mr. Potts?
Yes.
Mr. Shaheen?
Yes.
Ms. Twardowski?
Yes.
Mr. Seminara?
Yes.
Mrs. Fasette, yes. Mrs. Hartzell?
Yes.
And Mr. Basil?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Okay, moving on to 13.
A through I?
A through I.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Potts?
Yes.
Mr. Shaheen?
Yes.
Ms. Twardowski?
Yes.
Mr. Seminara?
Yes.
Mrs. Fasette, yes. Mrs. Hartzell?
Yes.
Mr. McCullough?
Yes.
And Mr. Basil?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Okay, number 14, policy. A, it's recommended the Board of Directors approve policy 914 for school volunteers. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, take a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Shaheen?
Yes.
Ms. Twardowski?
Yes.
Mr. Seminara?
Yes.
Mrs. Fasette, yes. Mrs. Hartzell?
Yes.
Mr. McCullough?
Yes.
Mr. Potts?
Yes.
And Mr. Basil?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Number B, it is recommended the Board of Directors approve Administrative Guideline 909, extracurricular volunteer. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, can I get a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Twardowski?
Yes.
Mr. Seminara?
Yes.
Mrs. Fasette, yes. Mrs. Hartzell?
Yes.
Mr. McCullough?
Yes.
Mr. Potts?
Yes.
Mr. Shaheen?
Yes.
And Mr. Basil?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Okay, C is a first reading acknowledgement of revised Administrative Guidelines 707 G1, G2, use of school facilities. Number 15, transportation.
So moved for A?
Second?
Okay, any discussion?
Yeah, at the time, again, this is only last week, so it's fresh in my memory. I had asked what the financial impact of that was going to be for us, knowing that we're not going to stop PennDOT from repairing bridges, whatever we say. I'd like to know what that impact was going to be.
Mrs. Pender did some research.
I did have Julie call, and Ron from Transportation said there would be additional charges, but at this time, he has no way to quantify that for us, because he doesn't know what students are going to be where, and I have no number for you, because he said there's no way of knowing. He did say, for what it's worth, that they were notified of this as well, and they sent back a letter saying that there was going to be additional expense and hardship placed on them as well.
How are we supposed to budget that into a budget when we have no idea? I mean, they must have some idea. I mean, if the buses are going to come across, are going to go in one direction versus another direction, they can ballpark a number for us. Not to mention time. Not to mention time. I mean,
I believe he was trying to also say possibly maybe it would be a van that they would run.
but if you ever follow the buses, every one of those buses come over by Klein's garage,
Correct.
over the top of that bridge, and straight into their parking lot on the other side of 422. So that means every one of those buses is now, instead of going down, is going to be coming from a different direction. It may be a wash, but it'd be nice to know we don't get hit with a $100,000 additional bill on transportation, and we just washed out everything we saved because of additional time and mileage.
Well, sounds to me, maybe we should just get Ron back on the phone again and just say, give us an estimate, and obviously knowing that he doesn't know what the number of students are and all that kind of stuff, but at the
Again,
same time.
no matter what we do, we're not going to stop this work, so we can go ahead and endorse the letter, but I'd like to know what it was for budgetary reasons.
Well, yeah, and just remember though that the PennDOT has proposed doing this over a 2 years time, doing these projects independent of one another as opposed to simultaneously. And,
right.
And the big issue isn't really going over the railroad tracks. The bigger issue is when they close down the bridge over the river, because that's where,
Well,
clients won't be able
all
to
the
go
traffic
quickly.
is going to come through Monocacy.
Yeah.
Do we know when it'll be 2 year, 1 year?
I think they're trying to get both done at the same time. I don't know how long the projects are actually going to last.
All buses will run east, so, I mean, one bridge versus the other, we're talking, what, 4 miles?
Yeah, but you're also talking every single one of those buses now in Monocacy.
But we can't avoid that.
I know we
And
can't
by
avoid it.
doing them simultaneously, hopefully the project could be condensed and less of a budget impact. The longer it goes on, the more expensive it will be. So if they do it simultaneously and condense the time frame, it could be quicker and the impact won't be as great. We're going to have an impact, but we can't predict that.
First impact will picking students up between those bridges.
Right.
Being a bus or a van.
Right.
So that's the true impact we're going to have as far as traveling 4 miles off of one bridge to another. So it will be there.
It will happen when we do the Birdsboro Bridge eventually, so.
Yeah. For the public, I would just say that you can write to your legislatures and get Maloney or Rafferty or Schwenk to lean on PennDOT to get these building projects done simultaneously and not one at a time. That would be a big help to the district because PennDOT may or may not listen to us as a board or the individual municipalities that are trying to get this accomplished simultaneously as well. But they probably will listen to their to the state representatives and the senators. So
When we do this letter, can we copy it to our legislatures just so that
that's where this letter's going.
It is. Oh, I thought it was on. I'm sorry.
It's going to
And you're right. I believe, yeah, we're CCing it to our.
I think the copy should go to all our legislators.
Right.
It's a great idea.
We can add the CC.
Okay. Any other discussion on this? All right. Do I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Stamanero?
Yes.
Mrs. Cassett, yes. Mrs. Hartzell?
Yes.
Mr. McCullough?
Yes.
Mr. Potts?
Yes.
Mr. Shaheen?
Yes.
Mr. Twodowski?
Yes.
And Mr. Basil?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Okay, moving on to old business. Is there any old business?
Yes.
Speaking, coming out of the curriculum committee, and when we did discuss this last week, I'd like to bring a motion that we remove the basic skills from the budget worksheet, so that and allow the basic skills as we identified them. Please, Mrs. Fazette, correct me because I seem to
Keep them
got it
at
down right.
100%.
We're going to keep them at 100%. Moving the reading back to the middle school and allowing the math to stay at the high school at the level that was recommended. But more importantly, so that Mrs. Trainer can go ahead and start her training and whatever else needs to be done along that line. So I think to condense this into something that makes a lot more sense to vote on is leave basic skills at 100%.
Are you doing that all as one motion, or
As
do you
one
want
motion.
3 separate motions?
I'd like to do them as one motion because they're all, okay. So basic skills at 100%. Read 180 back to the middle school. And the high school remedial math program, as per Mr. McNamara's recommendation, at half of its current complement, based upon the needs of the upcoming students.
And to clarify, the Read 180 would still remain at the high school, but only in the special ed component with the special ed teachers. I second that.
Discussion? I guess my question is, I mean, this is $400,000? That was about right, that number?
No,
No.
not even close.
Maybe I'm combining things.
You're
Basic
combining
skills
special
was
ed.
being proposed to be reduced to 80%, and then there was even another one.
Right,
And we're recommending it stay at 100%.
right.
Read 180
Was never going anywhere,
was never going anywhere.
and the remedial math was always in there for .5.
I guess my question is this something that we could discuss tomorrow night during the budget workshop?
No. I made the motion in a second. We'd like to vote on it tonight, because she needs to move forward with what she needs to, planning and staffing.
Could I make a motion to amend that to just basic skills at 100% and remove the remedial reading and math? And take them one by one.
Okay.
I'm going to amend it to, are you okay with that since you were the first?
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
Amend it to basics, to keep basic skills at 100%.
What's the
Currently, it's in the,
financial change to that? What's the financial impact to that?
The basic skills was the only thing that was in, if I'm not mistaken.
wait, I don't give it.
You know, Mrs. Trainer? Okay.
37,000
That's about right.
Yeah,
for 80%, to go down to 80%.
correct.
But our feeling, Mr. Seminara, was basic skills is the elementary program for math proficiency. The feeling of the committee, and Mr. Shaheen and Mr. Podolsky jump in any time, was that if we lose the students coming out of elementary school and they don't get a good foundation in math, that they will never succeed. And in the long term, we're going to spend a lot more money than $37,000 when we try to get them remediated in middle school and high school, and good possibility they'll never be successful in math. Basic skills is the math component for the risk students.
And the Read 180 was never part of it. We were just taking it out of the high school and into the middle school. And we had always had the remedial math program at the high school at .5, and that was always in there. And we were just confirming that. I mean, we can remove that off because it's part of the budgetary workshop anyways, if you want to take that right
I would rather have
Just
the
let's
high
vote
school
on-
component to the budget workshop and just move ahead with the elementary component, because Mrs. Trainer needs to really move forward with the elementary program
It has to
curriculum
do with
because of the
staffing
bumping and everything.
and bumping and everything else along those lines. So, again, we can amend it just to account the basic skills at the elementary level.
I mean, I'm fine with that. I think as far as the basic skills, I mean, I agree. We discussed it, and I know we didn't, at that meeting, when we were dealing with curriculum, we weren't discussing what we could take out to make up that $30,000. But one of the things we have been discussing is high school electives. And I mean, personally, I've already said that I think it's more important to keep the basic skills at the K1 and 2 and possibly give up an elective somewhere else. And I know that's not popular, but I feel that it's more important at the elementary school to get them through the rest of the high school. So that's just my 2 cents.
I mean, I think I agree with the sentiment here, and I think with what Mr. Podolsky is saying. I think I feel more comfortable having this discussion in terms of the overall budget tomorrow night, and as a board, come forward with something on this. And
I think with the budget is going to come, but I think we as a district now have to start making the tough decisions as to what's important to keep and what's not to keep. And just like we did with kindergarten before, now basic skills is on the table. And I know last year we went through saying something shouldn't even be on the table. My feeling is to educate children and do the best for every child. This recommendation never should have even brought to the table, because we will lose a population and they will never gain success. And that's what we're asking as a curriculum committee, is to take it off the table, not even be considering it as a budget cut.
I believe at this elementary level, you're giving an impression to these young students, and this, we don't want to lose them. You really don't.
I mean, it's proven. We're going to have enough problems with the way they're changing the state testing, the regulations, AYP, We cannot lose these kids. We're going to half-day kindergarten, and we need the basic skills to stay. Teachers have come to us and implored us to keep it if needed, and that's the only reason that we're asking to bring it with that. I made the motion, and Mrs. Fazette seconded it tonight, so that Mrs. Trainer can move forward. It's going to be part of her kindergarten curriculum. It's going to be part of everything she needs to do to move forward. And I think we can wait till, we can wait tomorrow. It doesn't make sense. That's why the motion was made.
Any other comments from the board? Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Okay, now just to clarify, this is only for the basic skills. The motion was amended. Mrs. Fasette, yes. Mrs. Hartzell?
Yes.
Mr. McCullough?
Yes.
Mr. Potts?
Yes.
Mr. Shaheen?
Yes.
Ms. Radowski?
Yes.
Mr. Salmonaro?
Yes.
And Mr. Basil?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Okay, are we taking up the second parts of these things? Or are you
No,
leaving
we'll
those
work
for
at
discussion?
those tomorrow in the budget workshop.
Okay.
I do have one thing that I'd like to bring up, and this is news from last week. We keep going after the music program, specifically the marching band. You know how I feel on that, but I don't want to drag this through. Mr. McAdam needs clarification on his program for next year. He has to start researching, developing that program, and I believe with extracurricular fee we're looking at, this district's looking at around a $17,390 cost after participation from all parties. I would like this board to give Mr. McAdams direction where that program can go from today forward.
I think we gave him direction last week.
Well, he'd like, if I have to, I'd like to bring it to a vote.
What?
We haven't approved a fee yet, though.
We haven't
You approved a $150
No,
fee.
we haven't gotten the proposal to May.
We haven't approved
Coming
the
in
fee.
May.
That's why-
Can't do it.
We can't do it without the policy, and we didn't even hear the full.
I mean, I think the problem is it's kind of putting the cart before the horse, and the activity committee has been discussing in public what a fee would look like, and
Correct.
to get some impact or feedback from the board, so that if there was changes or there wasn't an acceptance by the board to move forward with what's being proposed, that we could, revisit those items. So that
Well, we keep hashing this out through the committees, and I thought as we were moving forward, we are agreeing to these fees.
Yeah, but until it's officially voted, we have
It's in May.
a 5-4 vote at a minimum, you don't have the numbers as, and I thought we sat here and you stood here, and we said, Mr. Mack, go forward as if you have your agreements and start planning accordingly.
We can put that,
I mean, look, a committee of
It's
the
in the
whole
minutes.
workshop in May is when we're going to, hopefully be bringing that policy forward
It'll
for
be
the
here.
board to review. And there's still some things that we're talking about, whether people, fund a
well, we
program or
understand
not.
that's
I
far-fetched
think
other
in terms
versus
of,
participation fee.
no, I understand that, and I also think though that, for me personally, I take a different slant on the whole activity fee thing, that unless we were going to do something, okay, that you're going to charge a fee that fully funds something, I just look at, this is just an alternative source of revenue for the district, period. And I didn't want to get into a situation where we're saying, oh, well, we got 27 people participating in this one activity and all their fees are going to support that activity.
Right.
It's kind of like, no. We have $1 million we spend on an annual basis on extracurricular activities. If you take, it's a round number, don't quote me specifically on that, but when you take in the athletic budget, the band budget, the extracurriculars and everything else, it's somewhere just south of $1 million. So if you're instituting an activity committee or a fee for all those activities, the idea was to reduce that nut down to something that's a little bit easier for this district to manage with its finances, so that those programs aren't eliminated altogether.
Correct.
And so if we start excluding pieces of this, or we start allocating that these dollars are going to go to these programs based on what's being raised from an activity fee itself, I think it defeats the purpose of that.
Well, I know we had, the last thing we targeted was as far as the music program. So the last thing we discussed was last week as far as changing policy. And
To include the extracurricular portion of the marching band.
correct.
Right.
So as long as we have it in the minutes, he can proceed
Well, look,
as he stated last week.
Well, I think the other thing that was mentioned then too was we're not quite done the budget process yet.
Correct, I understand.
So, you know, whatever the budget is for marching band and
Well, that's
music in
just
general and
what's
everything else, just like whatever the budget is for each building and different departments and extracurriculars and all those things that we're still discussing, and until the board comes to some sort of conclusion on the budget, it's almost impossible to say, well, yeah, this is what your budget's going to be for next year, because quite frankly, we haven't made that decision yet. And that decision may not be happening until May. Hopefully we move in that direction tomorrow night and next week, and we have something a little bit more concrete come May 9th. But I don't know how you can, I mean, for any of these guys, whether it's Tom McGath or it's, you know, Ken Smith or Mr. Jacobs or anybody trying to plan for next year, they really can't do anything until this board kind of ratifies the cuts that we're making. I understand his concern, and I think Mr. Sheehan expressed it correctly last week, which was start making your plans as if you had the money, and it's subject to change.
What is the concern?
I think, if I can summarize, I think the concern was what level of a competition band would he have? And I think that's predicated on the budget. I think the consensus was given at least to move forward to separate the extracurricular from the co-curricular component. That direction was fairly clear. The other decisions, as Mr. Basil just said, are pending budgetary discussions.
But nobody made a recommendation to slash the
Correct.
current program as
Correct.
it stands.
Why should that program be any different than it was? I understand that there was a vote to change it from being a graded course to something that we can now charge an activity fee. But other than that, how does that change how Mr. McAdams would run the band for next year? I don't.
That decision in and of itself wouldn't.
Yeah, so I don't understand
But are
what
we
the issue
going
is.
into this budget discussion, are we going to bring that dollar amount what potentially we could raise
You're talking about the activity?
for the activity fee?
Are you thinking that he's going to be limited to the money that is charged through the activity fee?
Correct.
No, that's not the case.
That's not the case.
I think the bigger question is, because of the budget cuts and the fact that we haven't moved forward with the budget discussion, is on the table, it has been all extracurriculars would be cut.
That's correct.
Athletics would be cut by a certain percent, and extracurriculars, and now that, and I don't know, maybe I'm misinterpreting it, I think the concern is, since the competition ban has been moved to an extracurricular, is there still the risk that they could be cut if we cut all extracurriculars? Sure. And I think that's what he's asking for, is some type of security that with, now that it can be charged a fee, are we going to maintain that program? Just like, you know, athletics, middle school athletics and all those, I know we're looking at the numbers and all that. I think it's a little premature, because until the activity fee committee can present their proposal and the projected revenues, and then in addition to the 25% cuts, I know like in the athletic budget, there's been identified 25% cuts. So by the time you get your budget, then your 25% cuts, and then the revenue from the fees, we haven't had that discussion yet. So I understand his concern, but I think we need a few more weeks, because we haven't had the discussion yet with what the activity fee can generate.
No different than any of the sports.
Correct. Well, we've been having discussions with fees since fall. And now we're going to a budget meeting, and we don't know if we're going to bring those, generate that revenue into this.
Well,
and we're talking about a budget.
And remember, those fees are based on enrollment.
Participation.
And participation of those things, which we're just using this year as an example. I mean, nobody knows what
Well,
next
I
year
went
is,
low,
so.
you know, so.
Yeah, I just caution people, and what we've been talking about overall as part of the activity committee was, hey, look, because that's been the question. Well, look, if we charge these fees, is this program going to be saved? And the answer is no. There's no guarantee, right? Because we're still working out the budget. I mean, if we get through all of this, and at the end of the day, we still have millions of dollars to go,
Right, I understand.
then everything's still on the table for discussion, right? So even if the activity fee in general generates, you know, whether it's $150,000 or $100,000 or $200,000.
Well, there again, if the marching band generates full pay to participate, then that wouldn't be.
We looked at the numbers.
There's no way.
I understand.
That's not going to be possible.
But I mean, there's a lot of speculation.
So I guess what I want to do, let's end the speculation. I mean, everyone's going to have to start making plans as if no one has said that the marching band in particular has to change its
competitions.
The number of competitions, where it's doing competitions, or any of that kind of stuff yet. No one's made those decisions, just like no one's told our athletic director, well, cut this,
You're not gonna have
yeah,
football.
this type of high school sport is going to go, or you can only go to this number of games, or we're not buying uniform. No one's made those decisions, and so Mr. Legath hopefully is planning next year's seasons already for all the athletic programs in the high school, and he may have to change those things, the third week of May, depending on what this board.
I mean, obviously, just not the music program, but we don't want to chop the quality of Daniel Boone education and participation with all these levels. So obviously, I understand the financial burden, but I think we need to come to some.
Look, I agree, and I agree wholeheartedly with the frustration that's being expressed here, because people want decisions so they can start taking action. Unfortunately, we are where we are because we're kind of waiting on some other things. So.
I mean, obviously, it's all about quality, all around. So, but fiscally being responsible. So, okay.
But we should make sure it's clear if it's not. That Mr. McAdams shouldn't feel like he needs to lessen his plan for next year.
I mean, look at how hard it was tonight to get a commitment that basic skills was 100%, and that's remedial math for elementary school.
Right.
I think we couldn't even do the math at the high school. We're not at that point yet, so it just has to be patient. Everybody's in the same.
Like I said, I didn't want to beat a dead horse, but I'm just
Duly noted.
Keep things moving along.
Duly noted.
And we'll be hopefully getting progress with the budget process tomorrow. So we'll see.
Okay. Any other comment on that issue? Okay. Anything else under old business? Okay, seeing none, moving on to new business. Any new business? The DBEA had proffered an idea to send letters to our state legislature, and they had provided the board with some sample letters. Dr. Otto had written a letter on behalf of the school district that the public could also use to send out to the local legislatures to support state funding for education. The DBEA proposal was they provide the manpower to sit out at school activities and allow people to sign the form letter, and they would stuff the envelopes and mail them off to the legislature for that. So they had asked the board for some feedback on that. I'm bringing it up now for any comments from the board on that initiative. Okay. Seeing none, I guess that ends that discussion then.
I mean, I don't want to let it die, a slow death like that, but there's nothing stopping them from setting a table up anywhere they want. I mean, I think the board fully endorses them if they want to set a table outside here and outside the football games and the baseball games and the track meets and everything else with letters ready to sign. I don't have an issue with that. Unfortunately, as in the past, I don't think a letter writing campaign does a heck of a lot to sway our legislators.
They have their agenda.
Their agendas are their agendas, and this isn't going to sway. We could have 50,000 letters come out of Daniel Boone School Districts proper, and Mr. Corbett and his elected officials are going to do what they want to do. Because they got 4 years to do it before they have to worry about it again.
I guess from the board's perspective, is this something we're endorsing or just saying, okay, well, look, you're going to do it, that's the DBEA doing it, and people understand that it's the DBEA and it's not the district? Or do you have the letter that the superintendent also wrote as a template that's also being offered at the same table, and that it's a joint?
Again, I think the district has already written a letter, and we've already come out and sent our letter. I don't have a problem as a board taking it up as a vote, saying, hey, we support you doing this. But I think that the DBEA and the board are two separate entities, and that if the DBEA wants to do it, then they should go ahead and do it. And as a board, if we can support that again, and we can vote to support that if we want. But it's still a DBEA and Pennsylvania State. If they're going to do it, they can do it. But I think as a board, I think we have to have that separation as a board and the union. And again, support what they do. We can vote to support it, but if they're going to do it, they have to do it unilaterally.
Any other comments? I mean, I think I agree with you. I think that this doesn't need to be I don't think it rises to the level of a vote, but if there's a consensus from the board that the DBA is more, we support their effort and they can man tables at events and represent what their initiative is and what they're trying to accomplish, then more power to them. And otherwise, the district has its letter that should be coming out from the district in that regard as well. It's on the website.
It's already been sent.
Yeah, it's already been sent, right. Is there a consensus to that?
I have no objections to what you propose. I think it's fine.
Are there any objections? No. Okay, if there's no objections, then the DBA, you guys heard the consensus of the board. Start manning the tables, and you're more than welcome to participate at different school events and begin the letter writing campaign. Okay? Any other new business?
I think just one last thing. I mean, for a number of people in the audience, tomorrow's budget workshop may be one of their first. And just to let them know that during a budget workshop that we, as such, we don't take public comment.
Right. So this is going to be it will be open to the public, the budget workshop meeting, but it's a workshop of the board that you're able to sit and observe, but it's not going to be a participatory event. Okay, so it's a meeting of the board to get stuff done. It'll be held in the middle school cafeteria, and you're more than welcome to come and listen to those discussions, but there will not be any public comment during that workshop meeting. Anything else? Okay, seeing none. Presentations by the public on issues.
Shane Cockle, 830 Geigertown Road. I filed a right-to-know form about a month ago, and it was a very simple, well, actually it wasn't simple, request. I wanted to know the 2009-2010 sports budget. The Right to Know Act requires the school district to reply within 5 days. I waited my 5 days, didn't get a response, finally got a letter in the mail stating that the school district needs 30 days for this information. I called Dr. Otto and I left him a long message. I was pretty upset. I told him this is not acceptable, and I actually accused him of withholding this information from me so it would not be brought up at the committee of the whole meeting. And I demanded him to give me a call back. The secretary called me and said, well, Shane, since it's a lot of work to get this, what you're asking, together, you'll have it in a few days. I waited and waited almost 3 weeks. The day after the committee of the whole meeting, which I knew I was going to have this information, and I said it from day one, I got my request. So I'm thinking if it's going to take 3 weeks, it should be a well broken down document. In fact, I got a printout of a section of your budget. This literally took someone 15, 20 minutes to pull up. We pulled up the budget. It's all coded. It's no different than anything else, and printed out. There's a 5-day requirement to get this information. Okay, it took me 3 weeks to get this. I understand if I was going to get this huge packet all broken down, it would actually have taken someone 2 weeks to produce for me. I could understand it. But what I got is just this little 8-page document that was just a simple printout. Can anyone explain to me why you did not follow the law and print this out for me within the 5-day period?
I can respond to what the right to know requirements are. It's not 5 calendar days, it's 5 business days from the district's receipt of the request. So I don't know how that affects your calculation, but that's what the law requires. The law also does provide that the district may unilaterally take an additional up to 30 days to produce records as requested under several circumstances. One is where the district is required to undertake a legal review to determine if the records are subject to production in the first instance, and where the nature of the request requires more than the 5 business days. And under several other circumstances which are identified in the Act, but under those circumstances, the district does have up to 30 days after the 5 business days expires to produce the record.
Neither of those fit this, what I got. It was all but 15 business days. And it's literally just a section of the public budget that was pulled out. I mean, this is it. I mean, this literally took someone 15, 20 minutes to pull up. And I'm familiar with the Right to Know Act, and you're right, but this is all I got. I didn't get something that required more time, and everyone knows that a public budget is open to the public. Okay, so you willingly withheld this information from me until after the committee of the whole meeting. And I even stated that before you guys even responded with a phone call back. I got a phone call back, it was well after 5 business days.
Well, all I can tell you, Shane, is if you got dates and things of that nature, you want to bring them to our attention, email the board directly with that. We can refer them to Mr. Subers. Clearly, I think as a district, if the public's making a request for information and it meets the requirements of the right to know law, then we should be making a good faith effort to get that information out to the public as quickly as possible. If what you're requiring takes a little bit extra time, then I think you have to understand that any government entity is going to take the time that it's given within the Act to produce those documents. I've filed several right to know requests myself in different municipalities, and it seems that they always come in at the 36th day of when you make the request. That's just my personal sentiment on it. I guess the next question is, did you get what you needed? And
actually, what I got, I'm still trying to figure it out because it's all coded.
Okay, so can you just email me what it is you're looking for in terms of, look, this was where it was deficient with what I wanted. If you need codes and what the codes mean, we can pass that on to the administration and we'll get you the codes. If you're a little bit more specific with what you need, we can try to effectuate this a little bit faster.
Right, and I was very specific. I actually filled out the whole back of the paper because it says be as specific as possible.
Right.
So I just wanted to bring it to the board's attention that, I was completely fine and I understood after I got done talking to Dr. Otto's secretary. I completely was fine with it until I got this 15 minutes worth of work.
Okay.
So that's all I would like to bring up to the board, that if this act could actually get the school district in trouble if it becomes an ongoing process when people fill out these right to know forms.
Okay. I mean, I don't want to cut you off. We're at 3 minutes, but if we didn't get you what you asked for, then we have an obligation to get you what you asked for. So I would say
to the extent,
right. So if you don't feel like you got the information you need, I would write in red ink on the form you submitted. I didn't get this, and this, and maybe we can get that information to you. Or if it's not something that we should produce because it's not.
Well, I think part of the issue was the initial request was kind of posed in terms of information requests, and then I think what the district had to do was to determine what records were in fact responsive. because the right to know law, and Shannon is familiar with the law, the district isn't required to create records in response to a right to know request, and it's not like that we're required to answer questions. What we're required to do is produce documents that are requested by the public. And I think part of the issue in this case, as I understand it, was that it took some time to determine what records the district possessed were most responsive to your inquiry.
Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Do I need to sign in?
Yes, please.
My name's Teresa Walter. I live at 100 Highland Court in Douglasville. I'm here tonight to support the band and our music programs in our district. And as a parent, I realize how important music is in the mental development of our children. I decided to do some research before approaching the board. The amount of information was absolutely astounding, and I am imploring you, do your homework, do some research on what music can do for our children. I brought an article with me. Can I read a little bit of it to you?
You have 3 minutes.
Okay, go as quick as I can. This is from a publication that comes out in our elementary schools. It comes home in the Tuesday folder. And just a small portion says, advancement in technology allows scientists to actually see brain activity via PET scans and MRI imaging scanning the blood flow in the brain. Our brains are wired with neural pathways. Most activities only cause a small portion of the brain to light up with the activity, thus the saying right brain, left brain. But there are actually 4 parts of the brain, and music makes all parts light up and create new neural pathways. As a person is learning to play an instrument, those neural pathways remain intact and can be used for other things besides music, such as higher level critical thinking skills in mathematics. I have several other studies that I brought to give to the board if you're interested. One study measures student performance in SAT scores, standardized test scores, and dropout rates. The study concluded that the more music and arts classes taken, the higher the student achievement was in all measures. It also concluded that the more music and arts classes taken, the less likely a student is to drop out of school. So my conclusion is to say that we parents are expecting you, the school board, to make an informed decision. Please, please do your research. Study the effects of music education on our children before cutting any of our curricular or extracurricular music programs. And I'm sure you'll find that our music programs are essential for our children's development, as well as for the academic success of our Daniel Boone School District. If you'd like, I'll leave these for you.
Yeah, please do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Should I just leave them here? Okay.
Go ahead.
Hi there. My name is Alinda Ferenz. I'm from 106 Victoria Drive in Douglasville. I wasn't at the last meeting, and someone came to me and told me a bit of information that was presented there. And I'd like to just find out whether it's the truth or rumor, since we don't have the minutes. Is it true that the curriculum meeting decided that, or is wanting to bring back 25 aides to assist with the kindergarten through 2nd or 3rd grade?
The curriculum committee had spoke about making a recommendation to the committee, which will be meeting tomorrow, to bring back part-time aides to assist in the K through 2.
K through 2.
Yes, because right now they're on the chopping block to be completely eliminated.
Right, and do you know the cost of that? Like if you would keep those people, do you know the cost?
No, I don't.
Do you know what a average salary is for an aide?
No, if I did, I'd be able to give you the 20. I don't know.
We have it, I don't have it with me, it's in my budget prep folder.
Okay, would you be able to email me?
Well, we're going to
That
present it
information
tomorrow.
About it tomorrow night.
Okay, after the meeting, would you be able to email me the information?
Yes.
Can you come tomorrow night to the budget meeting?
I
'Cause-
can't, I'm
oh.
sorry, I'm going to
Well,
my
if you-
son's birthday party.
If you email me, I'll email you back because I don't have your email.
Okay, yeah, sure.
After the
I
budget
can
meeting.
actually leave it for you after the meeting. I just want to know if it's cost effective to bring back those 25 part-time aides, or is it more cost effective to keep those kindergarten teachers?
No, it
No.
wasn't just for kindergarten, though. It was for
It's for
first and second grade
right.
also. So
Right.
bringing
Well,
back the aides to kindergarten would not cancel out the savings that was being realized going to half day. The aides were also in first and second grade.
Right, I understand that. I'd just like to see the numbers.
Actually, I have it.
Okay.
For the part-time aides, K through 2, it was less than 140,000.
For salary and benefits?
All in.
Yep, all in.
All 25,
For salary and benefits?
Correct.
part-time.
Right, that sounds a little low.
No.
They-
No benefits.
There's part-time that aren't benefits.
Excuse me?
That's straight salary.
Part-time that aren't benefits.
Okay, so you're talking part-time too, where I work and I get benefits, so
Can you review
it's
this
not for
tomorrow,
every
because I wasn't
facility.
familiar with the data myself.
Yeah, Mr. Seminaro has been provided with the
Present this
data.
at the...
No, you get it tomorrow.
Right.
We'll be discussing this tomorrow. And
Actually, what did come out in the goldenrod, I think last week, prior to the committee of the whole meeting, it came out. There was an aid summary for special ed and also for to support literacy in K through 2.
But
So it is in that packet.
I'm referring to the dialogue about it. We haven't
Right.
had a dialogue.
Well, we had it at last week at the committee of the whole meeting, and that's what she's referring to.
Right.
But that was the cost that was mentioned last week. But we're going to discuss it at the budget meeting, because that's why we didn't move on it tonight.
Okay, thank you. And then just another area to look at for costs is maybe looking at OT, PT, and SLP. I think that you're hiring them under agency. It might behoove you to hire them as a district employee. I think you might be able to save some costs there.
We've actually done that with, I believe it was speech, was it not?
For speech, not occupational therapy though.
No, but we have been looking at them individually, and when it makes more sense to bring them in as an employee, we have done that in the past. The others have not been a cost neutral or a budgetary gain yet.
Okay.
The nature of those types of situations are such that in a given year you may need X, and then the next year you need
Right.
X minus,
Right.
or you might need X plus. It just depends. And the thing that the district does when they take on an OT or a PT is then they're stuck with the benefits year in and year out, whereas if you're contracting it, and we do a cost analysis of that every year to determine which is best for the district.
Okay. And then just one last thing. Another savings, and forgive me, Mr. Subers, have you actually talked about fees for Dr. Suber or Mr. Subers, and maybe, I don't know if you're asking for more money for fees. Have you actually taken those fees down a little bit?
We have yeah, I mean, that's a contract question. We discussed the contract with our solicitor. I think it's in July that issue comes up. And so, last year we went through that process with Fox Rothschild.
And we appreciate your business, but I know that your firm is a very good firm, but I have a few friends who are attorneys, and they are aware that you are a very costly firm.
Well, our rates are what they are with Fox Rothschild.
You're looking at the cost of everything.
Competitive
So
with
please-
other school district solicitors in Berks County.
I'm sorry, excuse me?
They're very competitive with other Berks County solicitors
And they were
other
frozen
school
last year.
districts.
Okay.
There was no increase, I think, until January, and then it was on the hourly rate, not on the retainer.
Correct.
I
But
mean,
it's just something to keep in mind because we are looking at
No,
everything.
trust us, we keep it in mind. I mean, last year we had this discussion, so as a board, we're looking at everything.
And I'm sorry,
No, it's-
but children come first.
you gave him a PhD, I'm sure he's happy about that.
Thank you very much. And again, thank you very much for the ability to allow us to go about our business in trying to save the kindergarten program. And I admire you all. You are very proactive. You are far ahead of all the other school districts. Everyone is suffering right now, and you are doing a very good job. You have a very difficult job, and I admire you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the comments.
Motion to adjourn?
My name is Angela Bongiovanni, and I wrote a statement that I would like to read about the Daniel Boone Music Program, if I could. Okay. I've been a member of the
Angela, could you tell us where you're from, please? Your address.
109 North Kelly Drive, Birdsboro, Pennsylvania.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Angela Bongiovanni, and I've been a member of the Daniel Boone Music Program since 4th grade, so I can tell you all firsthand how wonderful the music program really is. I've been in nearly every musical ensemble the school offers, yet out of all these programs, the one I take most pride in saying I'm a part of is the marching band, and more specifically the indoor drumline. I cringe when I think where I would be without drumline, and I'm sure we all do. Last Saturday, we took first place at our championship competition, and we are all wearing our gold medals to prove how successful a Daniel Boone program we are. Currently, there are 25 members in drumline. If you cut the program, I can tell you that several of us would turn to drugs, some of us would become addicted to video games, and some of us wouldn't really know what to do with ourselves. Drumline really does so much for us, and from drumline I've learned so much, a great deal of discipline, a skill I know your generation values much more than ours. Not only that, but I've made amazing connections and unbreakable bonds with the people in drumline. They are not just my fellow members, my peers, or my friends, but they are truly my family, and as sappy as it sounds, every last member of drumline is a part of me. And I know they all feel the same way I do, or they wouldn't be here tonight. We all love each other and we love our program. Monday is one of our few nights off. But on this particular Monday, instead of studying, watching television, or catching up on the sleep we all desperately need, we chose to show up to this board meeting to protect what we love. This act of support is a plea from us to you to save our beloved program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion adjourned, second?
Second. Gotta move faster.
While you're signing in, just real quick, we have not put anything into the budget to remove any of the music program other than what Mr. McAdams has brought forth. Okay? Okay, I want to make, because we as a board are getting emails too, saying you can't cut this program. We have nothing in the budget other than what the band director has brought forth, saying we could remove from the budget as being duplicate programs. Okay.
Good?
Yep, your name and address, please.
Hi, Louis Lasik, 8 Miller Drive, Douglasville, PA, 19518. Yeah, Angela hit a few good points there. I was just basically going to say, reiterating the fact that clearly we all love our music program and don't want to see anything like, we got like almost the entire indoor drumline here wearing their jackets and bagging it all up, and I'm sure the guard would be here too if they weren't practicing down the hall right now. And like, just so you can see the support that we're here, and as we all understand, you're not saying as of right now or anything that any program will be specifically cut or what we're doing as of yet. And we're, happy about that. But, and just, like another thing, Maria, Steve, myself, we're all seniors. I put in my deposit for college this morning. I'm ready to get out and go to school, but as I'm sure they have too, Maria's more top in the class. But we're still sitting here, ready to fight for what we did for the past 4-6 years. So I just wanted to further point out our commitment to this program, what we're ready to do to keep it going so that those with the same ideals as we have can continue it going when we're gone. And so we can keep up everything that's been happening. So that's pretty much all I got.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Jamie Manheim, Guyvertown Road, Union Township. I have 2 questions and a comment. During an April board meeting, the question was asked what a so-called bare bones budget would look like for the district's costs and expenses, and I'm curious to know if such a budget has been determined and when that might be available to the public, just a strict bare bones budget. 2, in light of the proposed staffing cuts and retirements, what specific steps are being taken to research all the curriculum programs in more detail in order to utilize the remaining personnel and necessary materials to most effectively and efficiently have educational success in the classroom? And 3, a comment, if you haven't opened your emails I sent today forwarding the success of the indoor programs this weekend with regard to the extracurricular status of the music ensembles, and when making any decisions, again, please keep in consideration the number of students impacted from the elementary grade through high school. And know that every student enrolled participates at every event. There's no side sitting, they're all involved every time. The ensembles and a great number of individual students successfully represent Daniel Boone and are revered at the county level, the district level, the regional level, the state level, and a multitude of states along the Atlantic County coast of the country. If the decision is made to cut the school's financial support of the music programs, it is hoped that the board members, administration, and the community will attend any future concerts and competitions, donating at their fundraisers, promote any of the events, and encourage the continued commitment as a gesture to the students and staff in recognition for all their efforts and success that brings a great deal of notoriety to the Daniel Boone School District. Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Okay, the meeting is adjourned.